Identical properties, identical flood risks, yet these Alabama properties are paying a difference of 40% in flood insurance premiums. Today, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why one of them is paying way less and how you can too. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Chris with the Flood Insurance Guru. And more than a decade ago, I bought a house in a flood zone. I was given a lot of wrong information. I almost lost my house. That's why I've been helping Alabama homeowners like you for the last decade. Today, we're talking about potentially why properties with a similar flood risk and look very similar are paying such a difference in flood insurance. Today, we're talking about the National Flood Insurance Program, and we're talking about private flood insurance in Alabama. Real quick, let's talk about some of these premium differences we see in Alabama. Look, after helping hundreds of people with their flood insurance in Alabama, here's what we've discovered. That the average flood insurance premium that we see with the National Flood Insurance Program in Alabama is around $1,150 a year. Not too bad. However, with private flood insurance for the same coverage, the average premium we've seen after helping all these people in Alabama is around $850 a year. That's a $300 difference. That's a big difference. But let's dive even deeper into some of these other areas and parts of Alabama. We're going to look at areas like Coleman, Alabaster, Alabama. We're going to look at parts of Birmingham, Alabama. So throughout this video, if you want to skip down to some of these other chapters where we discuss these different cities and their flood insurance premiums, then go ahead and do that. $1,250 or $850. Which one do you want to pay? Probably the less one, right? And that's exactly what a lot of Coleman, Alabama residents have decided to do for their lakefront properties on Smith Lake, areas that are in flood zone AE that are being required for you to purchase flood insurance if you have a mortgage. And these less policies are even getting something extra in many situations that National Flood Insurance Program policies are not. And that is additional loss of use. So if your house was to flood, they're getting coverage to temporarily pay for a place to live. This is a huge coverage. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story we saw from a homeowner in Nebraska. In 2018, she had additional loss of use and her neighbors did not. She had a hotel paid for 6 months. The financial stress, the emotional stress it took off her family was huge. And this is the same thing that many Coleman, Alabama residents are taking advantage of on Smith Lake when it comes to setting up their flood insurance. After helping hundreds of people with their flood insurance in Hoover, Alabama, here's something we've discovered with the National Flood Insurance Program and private flood insurance. And that is, on average, what we see in Alabama is that an elevation certificate can save you up to 20% on your National Flood Insurance Program policy still here in 2025 and beyond. On private flood insurance, we're seeing it on average that it saves people up to $140 a year. So having an elevation certificate in Hoover, Alabama can still be very valuable whether you're setting up coverage with the National Flood Insurance Program or private flood insurance, especially after all the Cahaba River flooding that happened in 2021. So if you live in Hoover, Alabama, make sure to take advantage of that elevation certificate to maximize your savings on your private flood insurance policy and your National Flood Insurance Program. Pelham, Alabama sees significant flooding 2018, 2021, 22. There's always these areas along Buck Creek that historically we see a lot of flooding from. But what does that mean for the National Flood Insurance Program? What does that mean for private flood insurance in Pelham? Well, let's talk about this real quick. What we see after helping hundreds of people with their flood insurance in the area. And we still see the National Flood Insurance Program being around that $1,150 mark. We see private flood insurance coming in around that $850 mark with no standard 30-day wait if you're electing to get it where a bank's not requiring it, where you can still get additional loss of use. In fact, we had someone in the Chandelar area in Pelham that had additional loss of use on their property during the 2021 flood that helped pay for an apartment for up to 6 months when their home was being repaired from flood damage. So this is exactly how you can take advantage of additional loss of use in Pelham, Alabama with a private flood insurance policy. Remember, additional loss of use is not provided by the National Flood Insurance Program. I hope you have found value in this video when we talked about the difference between the National Flood Insurance Program and private flood insurance in Alabama, and specifically in some of these different cities in Alabama. Now, if you're ready to take the next steps to getting flood insurance in Alabama, it's easy. It's 3 simple steps. Step 1, fill the form out on our website. Step 2, meet with one of our flood risk advisors. And step 3, finalize your policy. It's that simple. Remember, don't forget to share, subscribe, and like the channel below. I'm Chris with the Flood Insurance Guru.